Have you ever given everything to a woman, your time, your energy, your identity, only to watch her lose respect for you? Think about that for a moment. You thought you were doing the right thing. You sacrificed your hobbies, adjusted your personality, gave more love than you had to give, and still, she grew colder. Instead of drawing her closer, every step you took seemed to push her further away. This is the trap men don't see. It doesn't happen overnight. It's not a dramatic moment where everything collapses. It's subtle, quiet, and disguised as love. You believe you're building the relationship, but what you're really doing is dismantling yourself piece by piece. And here's the painful truth: the very behaviors you thought would make her love you more are the exact ones that make her lose attraction and respect. Most men never learn this until it's too late. They convince themselves that the solution is more giving, more patience, more sacrifice. But psychology shows us something different. When you give up your boundaries, when you chase her approval, when you let your identity dissolve into hers, you don't create love. You create resentment. That's why in this video, I'm going to expose the errors that feel like love but secretly destroy attraction. We're going to break down the psychological traps that men fall into every day, mistakes that transform strong men into invisible men. But before we dive deeper, hit the like button and subscribe to this channel, because what you're about to hear could completely shift how you see relationships forever. This is not advice you'll hear in mainstream dating talks. It's the raw truth that most people are afraid to say out loud. Let's be clear, love itself isn't the problem. The problem is when love becomes a disguise for self-destruction. When your desire to make her happy turns into erasing your own identity. That's not devotion. That's psychological suicide. And here's why it matters. Women are not attracted to men who sacrifice their core. Attraction isn't built on desperation, overgiving, or constant negotiation. Attraction is built on authenticity, strength, and respect, qualities that disappear the moment you make her approval your oxygen. In the next chapters, I'll show you exactly how this happens. We'll talk about why changing who you are for her backfires, why chasing her when she pulls away only drives her further, why overgiving creates imbalance instead of love, and why sacrificing your boundaries is the fastest way to kill attraction. By the end of this series, you'll know what never to do for a woman, not because women are the enemy, but because you can't build healthy love on the foundation of self-erasure. So stay with me, because once you see these traps clearly, you'll never fall into them again. One of the most dangerous mistakes a man can make in a relationship is losing himself. At first, it doesn't even feel like a mistake, it feels like devotion. She makes a comment about your style, so you change the way you dress. She says she doesn't like a certain friend of yours, so you see him less. She hints that she prefers different hobbies, so you slowly abandon yours. Piece by piece, you begin to reshape your life around her preferences. On the surface, this looks like love. It looks like compromise. It looks like the kind of sacrifice people always tell you is necessary to make a relationship work. But here's the truth: when those small sacrifices start erasing your identity, you've stepped into the identity trap. Why is this so dangerous? Because attraction doesn't come from becoming who she wants you to be, it comes from being firmly who you already are. Women don't fall in love with a blank canvas they can paint on. They fall in love with men who have a strong sense of self, who know what they stand for, and who live their lives with conviction. When you change your personality, your style, your opinions, or your interests to keep her happy, what you're really communicating is insecurity. You're showing her that her approval matters more than your authenticity. And deep down, that kills attraction. Think about it. If every time she expresses a preference, you immediately adapt, what does that say? It says you're not a man with a stable identity, you're a man auditioning for approval. And approval seeking never creates respect. This is why so many men find themselves blindsided. They think, I gave her everything. I became the man she wanted me to be. Why did she leave me? The answer is painful but simple. She didn't want a version of herself. She wanted a man who could hold his ground. Losing yourself doesn't happen all at once. It happens through a series of tiny concessions. Each one feels harmless until you look in the mirror one day and realize you don't even recognize the man staring back at you. You've lost your spark, your individuality, and your confidence. And when that happens, respect fades. Here's the key: compromise in a relationship should never equal self-erasure. Healthy love is two whole people choosing each other, not one person reshaping their identity to be chosen. So if you've ever caught yourself silencing your opinions to avoid conflict, abandoning passions you once loved, or changing the way you live just to keep her interested, understand this: you're not building attraction, you're destroying it. And once that erosion begins, it doesn't stop until you reclaim your boundaries and your sense of self. Because the truth is this: the moment you start trading authenticity for approval, you've already lost the game. And as destructive as the identity trap is, there's another mistake men make that cuts even deeper: the boundaries mistake. In the next chapter, I'll show you why sacrificing your limits doesn't make you more lovable. It makes you disposable. If there's one mistake that silently destroys attraction faster than almost anything else, it's this: giving up your boundaries. At first, it doesn't look like a mistake at all. She asks you to skip your plans with friends because she wants to spend time together. You agree. She makes a comment about how you should change the way you talk or act, and you adjust without question. Each choice feels small, harmless, almost like proof of your love. But what's really happening is the erosion of your boundaries. And once your boundaries disappear, so does her respect. Here's the psychology behind it: women test boundaries, consciously or unconsciously, not because they want to destroy them but because they want to know they exist. Boundaries are evidence of identity. They show where you stand, what you value, and what you will or will not tolerate. Without them, you're not a man with conviction, you're a man who bends to whatever pressure is applied. And no matter what people say, attraction is not built on submission. Attraction is built on strength, stability, and the confidence that comes from self-respect. Think about it like this: a tree without roots falls at the first strong wind. A man without boundaries collapses at the first sign of pressure. Women may push against your limits, but deep down, they're looking to see if you'll hold your ground. Because only when you stand firm can they trust and respect you. The boundaries mistake works slowly, and that's what makes it so dangerous. Each time you say yes when you want to say no, each time you adjust your values to avoid conflict, each time you swallow your voice to keep the peace, you're sending one loud message: my identity is negotiable. And when your identity is negotiable, your value is too. This doesn't mean being stubborn or selfish. It doesn't mean refusing compromise in a healthy relationship. It means knowing the difference between compromise and self-erasure. Compromise builds connection. Boundary erosion destroys it. Respect doesn't come from how much you give up, it comes from how much you stand for. A man with clear boundaries is seen as trustworthy, dependable, and attractive. A man without them is seen as weak, ungrounded, and ultimately disposable. So, if you've ever found yourself apologizing for needs you're ashamed to have, sacrificing your friendships and passions to keep the peace, or walking on eggshells hoping not to upset her, you've fallen into the boundaries mistake. And it's time to take your ground back. Because here's the truth: the woman who's right for you won't want you to dissolve your boundaries. She'll respect you more when you keep them. If this resonates with you, drop a comment below. Have you ever been in a relationship where your boundaries disappeared without you even noticing? I want to hear your story. And stick around, Because in the next chapter we'll uncover another trap men fall into, one that feels generous and loving on the surface, but secretly poisons attraction from the inside. One of the most common traps men fall into is overgiving. It starts with good intentions. You want to show her how much you care. You buy her gifts, you plan the dates, you go out of your way to anticipate her needs, and you invest your time, money, and energy without keeping score. At first, it feels noble. It feels like love. But here's the harsh reality. When you consistently give more than you receive, you don't create love, you create imbalance. And imbalance kills attraction. Psychology tells us something simple but powerful. People value what they invest in. When you do all the giving, all the planning, all the sacrificing, you rob her of the opportunity to contribute. Instead of a partnership, the relationship becomes a charity. You're the giver. She's the receiver. And while that may sound generous, it actually destroys the natural balance that creates respect and desire. Think about it. If you're always showing up with more effort than she does, what message are you sending? You're saying, I need to buy your love. I don't believe I'm enough on my own. That message isn't attractive. It communicates insecurity. And insecurity never inspires respect. The danger of overgiving is that it doesn't just drain you, it attracts the wrong type of women. Balanced, healthy women want to contribute equally to the relationship. But takers? They love an overgiver. They thrive on one-sided dynamics where your constant sacrifice becomes their constant comfort. Instead of building something together, you end up carrying the entire relationship on your shoulders. And here's the brutal truth. When you give too much without reciprocity, resentment begins to grow. You may not notice it at first, but deep down, you start keeping score. You start wondering why your sacrifices aren't being matched. You begin to feel unappreciated, undervalued, and invisible. And that bitterness leaks into everything: your mood, your confidence, your interactions. Healthy relationships are built on balance. Both people invest, both people give, both people create the foundation of respect and desire. Overgiving strips that balance away. Instead of being her partner, you become her provider, her rescuer, her emotional crutch. And no matter how much effort you pour in, the attraction keeps slipping through your fingers. So ask yourself, are you giving more than she gives back? Are you overinvesting emotionally, financially, or with your time, while she sits back and enjoys the benefits? If so, you're not showing love, you're showing desperation. And desperation never wins. The solution isn't to stop giving. It's to give in proportion. Give when it's matched. Give when it's reciprocated. Give from a place of self-respect, not insecurity. Because when you stop treating relationships like charity projects, you finally make space for genuine connection. But as destructive as overgiving is, there's something even worse. Something almost every man has done when he feels her slipping away. It's the instinct that feels natural but kills attraction instantly. And that mistake is chasing when she pulls away. Few instincts feel stronger than this one. When she starts pulling away, you feel the urge to chase. Her messages slow down, her enthusiasm fades, she creates more distance, and immediately, you panic. You think, if I just show her more love, if I fight harder, if I prove my worth, she'll come back. But here's the brutal truth: chasing when she pulls away doesn't bring her closer. It pushes her further away. Let's break down why. Attraction is not built through pressure. It's built through choice. When you chase after someone who is retreating, you're sending a clear signal: I need you more than you want me. That imbalance instantly kills respect. Instead of seeing you as a man of value, she sees you as a man desperate for validation. Think of it this way: when someone pulls away, They're communicating a lack of investment, whether it's temporary or permanent. By chasing, you erase her ability to process the distance on her own. You remove her freedom to choose you again, because you're forcing the issue. And nothing destroys attraction faster than pressure. Here's the psychology: people need space to feel their own emotions. When you fill that space with pursuit, you suffocate the natural process. Instead of missing you, she feels overwhelmed by you. Instead of wondering what you're doing, she already knows you're orbiting around her, desperate for attention. That's why chasing always backfires. It's not just ineffective, it actively rewires her perception of you. She no longer sees you as the strong, independent man she once desired. She sees you as someone who doesn't believe he deserves to be chosen freely. And that's the death of attraction. Now, let's be clear, pulling away doesn't always mean the end. Sometimes it's stress, sometimes it's confusion, sometimes it's testing. But the worst thing you can do in any of those scenarios is to smother her with pursuit. The right move is to step back, hold your ground, and let her reveal where her true interest lies. Because here's the paradox: often, it's when you stop chasing that she actually comes back. Not because you manipulated her, but because you created space for genuine desire to return. If you've ever found yourself blowing up her phone, begging for reassurance, or going out of your way to win her back every time she grew distant, you've seen this play out. Instead of repairing the connection, it made things worse. And deep down, you knew it. If you've experienced this, drop a comment below. Have you ever chased when she pulled away, only to regret it later? I want to hear your story. But as damaging as chasing is, there's an even more subtle mistake men make. It doesn't look like desperation, it looks like love, care, and devotion. But underneath, it poisons attraction just as fast. And that's the fixer mentality, trying to change or save a woman. One of the most deceptive traps men fall into in relationships is the fixer mentality, the belief that you can change, repair, or improve a woman into the partner you imagine she could be. On the surface, it feels noble. You tell yourself, I see her potential. With enough love, enough guidance, enough patience, I can help her become the best version of herself. But here's the truth: the moment you step into the role of fixer, you stop being her partner. You become her project manager. And nothing kills attraction faster than turning a relationship into a self-improvement program. Why is this so destructive? Because intimacy is built on acceptance, not correction. Real connection comes from seeing each other clearly and choosing each other as you are, not as who you might become with enough work. When you treat her like someone who needs to be fixed, you're sending a hidden but powerful message: you're not enough as you are. That message doesn't inspire love. It inspires resistance, resentment, and distance. This dynamic also shifts the polarity of the relationship. Instead of being partners, you slip into mother-son energy. You are the one guiding, teaching, correcting. She becomes the one resisting, rebelling, or complying. And in that dynamic, sexual attraction dies. Because desire doesn't thrive in correction, it thrives in polarity, in mutual respect, in seeing each other as whole individuals. Many men fall into this trap because they confuse love with fixing. They think, if I help her heal her wounds, if I guide her career, if I change her habits, she'll love me more. But the reality is the opposite. The more you try to shape her, the more she feels smothered. The more you attempt to improve her, the more she resists. And slowly, the relationship shifts from romance to therapy. Here's the painful irony: while you're working so hard to improve her, you're ignoring the one person you can actually change: you. A man who invests his energy into fixing himself, growing, and standing firmly in his own identity naturally inspires respect and attraction. A man who invests his energy into fixing her destroys both. So ask yourself honestly, have you ever stayed in a relationship because of who she might become, instead of who she is right now? Have you ever believed that enough effort could transform incompatibility into harmony? If so, you weren't in love with her, you were in love with a fantasy. And fantasies don't build real relationships. The right woman doesn't need you to fix her. She needs you to respect her as she is, and to hold your own boundaries as you are. That's where true attraction lives. If this video is opening your eyes, take a second right now to hit the like button and subscribe. Your support helps me keep bringing these truths that most men never get to hear. But as dangerous as the fixer mentality is, there's still a deeper trap, a slow erosion that doesn't happen all at once, but through countless small compromises until you wake up one day and don't even recognize yourself. And that's the erosion of self-worth. Sometimes, destruction doesn't come in one big dramatic moment. It comes slowly, quietly, almost invisibly. And that's exactly how self-worth erosion works. It begins with small concessions. You let her decide where to eat, even though you had a preference. You stay quiet when she makes a comment you disagree with, because you don't want conflict. You cancel plans with friends to avoid disappointing her. Each choice feels tiny, harmless, even thoughtful. But over time, those small choices add up, and they strip away the very foundation of your identity. Self-worth erosion is when you stop being the man you are, and start becoming the man you think she wants you to be. At first, it feels like adaptability. People might even praise you for being so easygoing. But what's really happening is that you're training yourself to disappear. You're teaching her and yourself that your voice, your needs, and your boundaries don't matter. And here's the brutal truth: respect cannot survive in that environment. Attraction cannot grow in that soil. Think of it like this: a relationship thrives when two strong individuals come together, each with their own passions, their own convictions, their own lives. But when one person melts into the other, the polarity dies. She doesn't see you as a man to respect, she sees you as a chameleon. Someone who bends, shifts, and changes depending on what will please her most. At first, she may enjoy the control. She may even appreciate that you're so accommodating. But deep down, something changes. She realizes she cannot trust you to hold your ground, to stand firm, to lead when it matters. And once that realization sets in, attraction begins to fade. The emotional toll is devastating. Men caught in this trap often wake up one day and realize they don't even recognize themselves anymore. Their hobbies are gone. Their friendships are gone. Even their opinions feel muted. They've built their lives around someone else's approval, only to discover that approval is never enough. And the worst part? The very behaviors you thought would preserve the relationship are the ones that guarantee its collapse. Because no woman can respect a man who doesn't respect himself. This is why self-worth erosion is so dangerous. It's not loud, it's not obvious, but it's relentless. Each small compromise chips away at your identity until nothing is left but a hollow shell of who you used to be. And here's the key lesson: real love doesn't require you to erase yourself. A healthy partner doesn't want you to sacrifice your identity for them. They want you to remain strong, authentic, and whole, because only then can the relationship thrive. But if you ignore this, if you continue down the path of self-erasure, it leads to the most dangerous mistake of all. The final trap that destroys attraction at its very core. And that's what we'll uncover in the next chapter. After everything we've uncovered, the identity trap, the loss of boundaries, the overgiving, the chasing, the fixer mentality, and the slow erosion of self-worth, it all comes down to one simple truth: attraction cannot be negotiated. You cannot bargain for it, you cannot buy it, and you cannot perform your way into it. Attraction is not the result of endless sacrifice or constant pursuit. It's the natural response that comes when two authentic individuals meet and connect. And this is where so many men get lost. They believe that if they just try harder, give more, change themselves, or prove their worth, they can force attraction to grow. But the reality is brutal. The harder you try to manufacture it, the faster it dies. Why? Because authenticity is the foundation of respect and desire. When you abandon yourself, your values, your boundaries, your passions, you abandon the very qualities that made you attractive in the first place. The more you negotiate for approval, the more you teach her that your worth depends on her validation. And no woman can respect a man who doesn't respect himself. This is the final reality check. You don't build attraction by erasing who you are. You build it by standing firmly in your identity, by living authentically, by protecting your boundaries, and by refusing to compromise your self-respect for temporary approval. Does this mean you never compromise? Of course not. Healthy relationships are built on partnership and understanding. But there's a difference between compromise and self-erasure. There's a difference between adapting and abandoning. Real love thrives when you remain yourself, not when you become a shadow of yourself. So if you've recognized pieces of your own story in these chapters, take this as your wake-up call. Stop chasing validation. Stop reshaping yourself to fit into someone else's world. Stop negotiating your worth. Because the right woman won't need you to do any of that. She'll value you for who you are, not for who you become to please her. And if this video spoke to you, hit the like button right now and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps me keep bringing these truths that most men never hear. And I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me, have you ever felt like you were losing yourself in a relationship? Here's the most important thing to remember. Recognizing these traps is only half the battle. Awareness opens your eyes. But the real victory comes when you rebuild your confidence, reclaim your identity, and learn how to create attraction without sacrificing yourself. Because next time, we're going deeper. In the next video, I'll show you how to build respect and attraction without losing yourself. That's when everything changes. Stay tuned.